Welcome into the Stardom Cinema Show presented by Bridgestone Tires. I am your host, Kimmi. That guy right there is Adam Rank, and later on in the show, we will be joined by our friend Triple F, Michael F. Fantasy Florio. Rank. It's week 4. Justin Fields, not the start that you wanted, but nothing can go worse than last week, right?
Do we have to start immediately on the Justin Fields stuff?
Would you rather me start about the stadium moving to Arlington Heights?
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm from Schaumburg. Like, it's closer to my parents' house and everything. It's going to be good.
All right, but a lot of important matchups coming to us in week 4, and we're here to talk you who to start, who to sit, and how you can win a fantasy championship. Speaking of quarterbacks and Justin Fields, let's take a look at your Stardom Sit-em list at the quarterback position.
Yeah, there's not a lot of those, like, we need to start Daniel Jones because of the matchup things this week. I think Baker Mayfield's probably the closest to that because I anticipate that being a high-scoring game against the Minnesota Vikings. And, of course, Kirk Cousins has been somebody that I've been advocating for since the preseason. Matt Stafford, no hesitation there. Jalen Hurts, even though the Eagles were dominated last week against the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football, still had a great stat day. And obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs have been allowing a lot of points, not just fantasy points, a lot of points. Their games have averaged over 60 points per game this season.
Ooh, it's time for Prepare to Perform, presented by Bridgestone Tires. One of those starts was Derek Carr. He's playing Monday Night Football right across the street at SoFi Stadium.
Right over there.
Taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Why do you like this matchup so much?
I think, first of all, I think there's going to be a lot of Raider fans over there. Still a lot of fans in Los Angeles, but Derek Carr has been one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the NFL going back to last season, averaging over 350 passing yards per game. As a matter of fact, this season, he has thrown for over 1,200 passing yards, matching Kurt Warner, what he did back during his MVP days with the St. Louis football team. And I look at Derek Carr, and if you've drafted players like Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, and I threw Sam Darnold in there because, you know, he's a Triton of San Clemente. So I want to give him a little bit of love as well. But I think Derek Carr is now somebody that we just need to recognize as a viable fantasy starter week in and week out.
And that's interesting because last week, as of NFL.com fantasy, less than 70% of people started him in NFL.
The haters are out there. They don't want to believe it.
But Derek Carr has never been the sexiest fantasy name. But you say he's got a good start this week and could be a start for the rest of the season.
Great offensive talent around him, too. Like, that's a good team. You should feel comfortable starting Derek Carr.
Okay, some comfortability in Derek Carr. Let's take a look at your stardom list at the running back position, Rank.
Yeah, so we got Jonathan Taylor there. Chris Carson, one of the most consistent guys in football. Clyde Edwards-Helaire bounced back last week. Andy Reid obviously believes in him. David Montgomery's done well historically against the Detroit Lions. And Zach Moss, who was a surprise inactive in week 1, over the last couple of weeks has really played himself into a prominent role both with the Bills and with our fantasy teams.
Ooh, so is Zach Moss safer in fantasy football than Devin Singletary?
I think this week against the Houston Texans, you can feel comfortable starting both of them. Zach Moss is an RB2 for me, but Devin Singletary is a flex guy.
Ooh, okay. Both of those guys. I got Devin Singletary.
All right,
I'm hoping he can get back in the end zone. He was allergic before, got a touchdown this season. But Zach Moss, stop stealing all the touchdowns. The first name on your stardom list was Jonathan Taylor.
Right.
I have plenty of shares of Jonathan Taylor. A lot of people took him within the first 10 picks of the first round, but he's currently the running back number 28. But you did say start him against the Dolphins. Can we expect a bounce back?
I think so. I have a lot of Nyheim Hines, so I don't necessarily want him stealing all of Nyheim Hines' end zone touches.
This isn't about you.
I know.
This is about Jonathan Taylor.
But you know what? No running back in the NFL has more looks inside the 5-yard line than Jonathan Taylor. And at some point, that's going to translate into touchdowns. So I understand that when you look at it in the short term, it's very frustrating. But this is something where you got to watch the whole season. Like, you just can't watch one episode and be like, this doesn't make sense. It's like watching I think it was season 3 of Sons of Anarchy, where you watched a couple episodes, you're like, this is garbage. But when you saw the full season, it was amazing. And that's the way it'll be with Jonathan Taylor.
But, you know, fantasy football fans and those of us who love fantasy football, we hit the panic button.
Oh, yeah, impetuous
So
people.
we're now on week 4 of the season.
Yeah.
If Jonathan Taylor does not perform against the Dolphins this Sunday, then is it time to hit the panic button? Like, what is our range?
You'll still need to chill a little bit. But, yeah, you can hover the panic button. I still wouldn't.
But just don't hit it quite yet.
Don't hit it just yet.
Let's take a look at your stardom wide receivers.
All right, yeah, let's take a look at that list right there. Calvin Ridley, I will not give up on. Although he's been good the last couple of weeks. There's no reason to worry about that. Odell Beckham Jr. Last week, a lot of people thought I was a clown for advocating Odell Beckham Jr. Led the team in targets. So, I don't know. I'm just saying. Devonta Smith going up against the Chiefs, the most targeted receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. It hasn't quite translated yet, but I think there's a huge opportunity. And Jalen Waddle, I don't know how this is possible. I think he had 90 targets last week. Florio, is that right? 90 targets for Jalen Waddle last week, I think it was, and then had like 40 yards. I'm like, I don't know how this happened. Watch the game again, and I still couldn't believe it.
All right, so one of those names on your board was Deebo Samuel. Do you feel comfortable starting him now that Brandon Ayuk is back on the field as well?
I really do because of the matchup. The Seattle Seahawks are not the same Legion of Boom that they were before. It's like when you're watching the wrestling in the 90s and Paul Roma was a member of the Four Horsemen. You're like, this isn't, like, I know it's the name Four Horsemen. It's not really, Arn Anderson. I guess Arn Anderson was part of it. But anyways, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different team. And Deebo is a player that every time I watch him play football, I'm like, why don't they get him the ball more? And as I say that, he gets 33% of the target share. So I'm like, he's a monster. Look at him. He's not a normal human being. Him and George Kittle should be touching the ball 40 times a game. That would be my game plan.
Game plan. If you were Kyle Shanahan, you're like, this is what we're doing on offense.
I would wildcat it with Deebo and George Kittle and just let's go.
Let's go. All right, so no concerns about starting Deebo Samuel, even with Brandon Ayuk returning to the game. Time now to look at your stardom tight ends.
Yeah, let's look at it. Yeah, the tight ends are always going to be a little chalky. I watched Kay Adams on Good Morning Football Thursday morning. The lists are very similar. There's not too much variation. Like, you know who the cinco are, the top 5 fantasy tight ends, and then it's these guys who week in and week out, like Tyler Higbee. I don't necessarily love his matchup this week, but at the same time, it's a high-powered offense, and it feels like you have to start him.
Right. The opportunities are there. One of those names, Logan Thomas, he's been pretty good this season. Pretty consistent. But he has a juicy matchup against the Atlanta Falcons. You liking it?
Yeah, we love the matchup. And we still, ever since Taylor Heineke took over at the end of last year, he really likes Logan Thomas for good reason. Like, he's a good football player, so why wouldn't he do that? I still don't think that we've seen this Washington FT offense fully operational. And nothing will kickstart your offense better than going up against the Atlanta Falcons. So I think this is a good opportunity. A lot of people have been worried about Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, survive the J.D. McKissick experiment for 1 week. I think he's a monster play as well. So all these FT players, you got to get them into your lineup.
I'm excited about the Washington football team. I think they have a high-powered offense, like you said. The defensive side of the ball, looking to get Chase Young actually have some sacks this season. He has not yet, but they have skills on both sides of the ball.
I'm with you. If they would have gotten James Bradbury, that would be a really good football team. But he went with the Giants. I mean, if you get to sign with the Giants, I guess you have to do it. So there it is. Right. Way to go, James Bradbury. You ruined that. No.
All right, but start Logan Thomas. All right, those are our stardom sit-em boards. We will dive deeper into those once we welcome in our pal Michael F. Florio later in the show. But remember, you can follow us and send us your questions at NFL Fantasy. Coming up, Michael F. Florio joins us to tell Rank where he's wrong on his starts and his sins. Plus, CMC is out. So is Chuba Hubbard now a must start? We will let you know. Coming up next
That's
on
not even
Stardom
a tuba.
Sit-em Show.
That's a sax.
Welcome back into the Stardom Sit-'em Show presented by Bridgestone Tires. Again, I'm your host, Kimmi Chex. He is Adam Rank. And now we get to welcome in Michael Triple F with the floral shirt, as always. How are you?
I break out the floral shirts solely for you two. Like, this
Honored.
is the only time
I appreciate it.
the year I wear floral shirts is when I'm on air with you guys.
It's very nice. It's a good look for you.
Yeah, it's an honor and a privilege that you save it just for us. Now,
Right?
if you don't know Florio personally, you wouldn't know that he is the nicest human being in the world.
Can confirm.
However, we're going to start a new segment called Let's Agree to Disagree, because Rank always has some hot takes, and it seems like Florio may disagree on a few of them. So we're going to force you to be a little bit mean. Or not even mean, but
Okay.
just disagree a little bit.
Disagree.
All right.
It's fine.
All right, our
You
new
can disagree with me.
segment. Let's agree to disagree. Rank, you think Baker Mayfield is a start this week.
Yeah, I
but
like
it seems like you may disagree.
Yeah, I mean, Rank, when you were talking about Baker Mayfield, you said, I don't think he's broke 16 fantasy points
Is that
this
correct?
year.
Is it 17 or is it 16?
It's 17, I believe.
It's low, yeah.
But, I mean, that doesn't make the best case for starting Baker Mayfield
No.
this week. And that's my whole issue with him is, like, it's the offense. It's not a Baker thing. They're just going to run the ball 1,000 times with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. And Odell will do his thing, I think, but is Baker going to get to throw enough to really put up numbers?
It is risky. I understand that. And, you know, obviously when you're looking at the top 12 of fantasy quarterbacks, it was difficult putting this list together this week because it was very chalky.
Yeah.
But when you look at, you know, some of the games that are anticipated to be high scoring, I think this Vikings offense puts up a lot of points that might force the Browns to do some things they don't want to do. I think that anytime you have guys like Baker and even Odell Beckham Jr., what I was saying about him last week is that it's not an every week thing for OBJ, but I think last week I thought was a pretty good opportunity against the Bears, and I think this week against the Vikings is another chance.
I think so as well with Odell. Baker has 2 passing touchdowns on the year. I need more out of him before I could start him in fantasy. That's the only thing. And again, it's not a Baker thing. It's just a
Yeah, we're not
Browns
bashing
offense
Baker.
thing.
Yeah, we love Baker. We love the Browns. That's a good football team.
I'm just smiling, sitting back, because like Florio disagrees. Florio's got some heat, some juice in there. Let's get to our next one. Devonta Smith versus the Chiefs. My Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
Defense, y'all got to step it up, okay? If you're watching,
why do you
step it
hate
up.
Devonta
Tyrann Mathieu,
Smith?
come on, guys.
Well-
Devonta Smith, you like him.
Oh, I love him. Apparently, Florio hates him.
I don't hate him.
You don't like Alabama
I don't want to
wide
see him
receiver.
have a good game against Kimmi's Chiefs.
Okay.
Thank you. Totally
but-
agree with Florio now. He totally wins this segment.
I'm just really worried about Smith because I have him on a lot of my fantasy teams. I was excited about him coming into the year, but his targets have decreased in every game, and the last 2 weeks combined, he has less than 10 fantasy points, and last week, Jalen Reagor and Zach Ertz out-targeted him. That has me a little bit concerned, and I know that we think they'll have to throw a lot against the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs' game plan is going to be make someone else besides Devonta Smith beat us in the passing game.
Well, that's kind of I use that because I think of like Tay Diggs. Like Devonta Smith actually fell down. That led to that pick 6. Although I think Diggs already had a better jump on that ball anyways. But the thing of it is, I think that the guys that you have to stop are the 2 tight ends. And I think that Chiefs defense is probably looking at Goddard and Ertz like, we got to slow these guys down. Devonta Smith's fine. Even though he's got 22% of the targets, I think that this is his pop week. I think they're going to go to him and try to get him involved in the offense this week. That's why I kind of favor him.
I'm just going to agree with Florio because of the Chiefs.
I would too.
No, but
Some dude on Twitter just said I was the single worst fantasy analyst. The single worst.
The single
Like,
worst.
he could have been like 4th worst. I would have been like, okay, I can accept that. The single worst? I'm like, okay.
I guess he's a
What's his
Devonta
handle?
Smith.
We'll handle him for you.
Yeah. Florio. Florio's
already
like
muted
muscled
him. I
up.
don't
He's
even
like
know.
ready to go. He's like, I'm mean now. Let's talk about a guy that is making all types of headlines because the starting running back for the Carolina Panthers, Christian McCaffrey, is out for the next few weeks. That means Chuba Hubbard been one of the most added guys on the NFL fantasy waiver wire, and now he takes on the Dallas Cowboys. So Florio, starting with you, do we trust him to start on Sunday against this Cowboys defense?
Yeah, I would. Like, you're not starting him over your obvious must-start running backs, but I have him ranked as a top 20 option this week. Last week, he only played 39% of the snaps in relief of Christian McCaffrey, still had 11 carries and 5 targets, and the targets are what I love. Because Christian McCaffrey is such a unique talent, this offense has a bunch of plays designed to throw to the running back. They're not going to completely revamp their offense. We saw it last year when McCaffrey went down. Mike Davis was an RB1 because he had 70 targets. So I think Hubbard, just because of the volume, isn't play. And you see there, I would play him over Kareem
Is that
Hunt.
your list?
That is my list. Kareem Hunt,
Kareem
Miles
Hunt?
Sanders, Melvin Gordon. I have Kareem Hunt one spot behind Chuba,
Okay,
so it's close. But yeah, I would be playing Hubbard if I was lucky enough to get him off the waiver wire.
Yeah, I agree with 2 of the 3 of those. I really like Kareem Hunt this week. But I think over Sanders, over Melvin Gordon, even though Melvin Gordon we still seem to kind of like disrespect
He's
for whatever.
RB1 right
we love Javonte Williams. Like we're so desirous of Javonte Williams breaking out that we've been so dismissive. I know that I have. Like every year.
Oh, I have too. I'm like, Melvin Gordon who? Which is mean because he's great.
I think he legit hates me, and he has very good reason for it. Because every time he lands with a new team, I'm like, I like the rookie better. I don't know. I should give him a chance because he's very good at football. But like when Austin Eckler came to town, I'm like, I like Austin Eckler better. Now I'm doing it with Javonte Williams.
Austin Eckler's awesome.
I know. Like I feel bad. He's a good player. He deserves better.
It's okay. Adam Ring says he's sorry, Melvin Gordon.
Sorry,
but the big thing here is that we do trust starting Chuba Hubbard because we think the volume and the opportunity could be there for him against Dallas on Sunday. All right, it's time now for our Colonel start of the week presented by KFC. And Rank, despite your Chicago Bears only having 47 total yards of offense last week against the Browns, you've got a spicy start of the week now.
Is it really spicy?
A little bit.
I missed the trade where, where's my camera? There it is. Hey, where are you? Hey, guy. I love Allen Robinson this week. Unless I missed the trade of Myles Garrett being traded to the Detroit Lions, I think it's going to be a little bit different this week. Also, if Bill Lazor is calling the plays, I think it'll be a lot different. Just because they weren't taking advantage of what makes Justin Fields so good. And I think that this is kind of a repeatable pattern from what we saw in weeks 1 and 2. The Rams embarrassed the Bears in week 1, and the Bears were the worst team in NFL history. And then the following week, the Bears went out and beat Cincinnati, a team that's looked pretty good so far, handed Cincinnati their only loss on the season. So I think there's been too much overreaction week to week to what the Bears do. They're a 9-8 team. Like, let's just be realistic. And so I think that this is the week that Allen Robinson bounces back.
I hope so because I was all aboard the Allen Robinson hype train in draft season, and I have him on a bunch of my teams. But, man, the usage has been concerning. The targets are down. The air yards are down. The red zone targets are down right now. And this has nothing to do with Allen Robinson. Like, Allen Robinson is a top 10 wide receiver talent in football. It's just the Bears' offense right now. It looks pretty broken. I hope you're right, though.
It didn't look good last week, and it didn't look good in week 1. But I don't think that Detroit is either one of those teams that they faced in those games.
Burning question, and I say this kind of with a chuckle, but you never know with Matt Nagy. Would you still say that Allen Robinson is the start of the week if Nick Foles is the quarterback?
That's not fair.
Your head coach said there's the options. So I don't know. I'm just asking.
Is Jay Cutler coming to town?
Maybe.
Let's throw Jay Cutler out there. Let's go
He
crazy.
might be the best option for you guys right now.
He's still good.
All right, it is time for a quick break, but keep sticking with us and joining along because when we come back, it is time for Club Dub. Find out which players we guarantee are going to put up 25-plus fantasy points. You are watching the Stardom Sit-Em Show presented by Bridgestone Tires. We'll be right back. You already saw the animation, so you know what time it is. It is time for our Club Dub Players of the Week. Guys who we guarantee are going to score 25 plus fantasy points and make it rain fantasy. So, Rank, start us off.
Oh, I'm going to go. What up, everybody?
Oh, we got money guns. Hey.
I'm going to go with Rob Gronkowski. What up, dog? I don't know if you've heard this, but Rob Gronkowski is returning to New England to play the New England Patriots, and I have to believe that him and Tom Brady are very petty. No, Gronk has been great this season. He's been scoring a bunch of touchdowns, and so I think that the reunion, I'm swept up in the emotion of it. I know that everybody outside of Gronk is being the low-key, like, I don't know, Tom Brady's a good quarterback, and we defend him like we're defending a quarterback. You know what? And then Tom Brady's making fun of his dad. Like, there's all kinds of shenanigans going on. Gronk is like the only one who's acting like a human being. Like he's going back to see his ex. Like he can admit, like, I used to play for this team and it was great. Now it's different. The other two guys, I'm upset with both of them. Like, show some love. You won a lot of Super Bowls together. That's all I want. So Gronk's going to score 25.
Yeah, Brady is the kind of guy that's not only going to get his revenge, he's going to make sure his boys get theirs as well. So
right.
I love that. Like,
yeah, I think that's got to be the case.
Yeah, he goes to bat for his guys.
Mike Jonas Gray is going to sign with the Bucs this week and get 4 touchdowns. No,
Watch, you never know. All right, who's yours, Florio?
I'm going with, let me do the money gun, with Joe Mixon tonight, which you can see on the NFL Network at 8:20. There is a lot of money in this gun. I'm just going to keep shooting it until it stops. But Joe Mixon is just going to eat tonight. He has at least 19 touches in every game with as many as 33.
Oh, there's $1 still.
Yeah, there's some money in there. The Jags just give up a ton of fantasy points, the 5th most to running backs, 2nd most touchdowns. And the last time that Mixon played the Jaguars last season, he had 31 touches for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns, or just 42 fantasy points. So, yeah, pretty good day last year. I think he continues it this year against the Jags. I expect a big night.
Isn't this illegal?
Like, I was like, these do kind of look legit.
This is illegal.
There's a couple of hundred.
But you have to show this one.
Gosh.
You have to show this one. That actually has your face. And Florio's face.
I'm bummed out for the guy who's going to get fired. Like, that seems illegal. But anyways.
All right, it's time for my Club Dub Player of the Week. Since y'all are shooting money, I got to do the same. It's just going right at rank. My Club Dub Player of the Week this week is Jameis Winston taking on the New York Giants. I know this is a little bit spicy, but I'm not trying to go super chalky here and be like, it's going to be Derrick Henry. We understand those guys are very good. All right. Jameis Winston, this will be his first time playing in the Superdome as the starter for the New Orleans Saints. This team has been away from their facility for weeks now because of a fire at the Superdome, also because of Hurricane Ida. I know this has nothing to do with football, but I think the energy in the Superdome is going to support Jameis Winston. He has bought so much into that New Orleans community. He just donated over $50,000 back to the New Orleans community. He wants to be in New Orleans. He's had the time to sit under Drew Brees, to really understand the Sean Payton offense. He was phenomenal in week 1 against the Green Bay Packers. I think he has a favorable matchup against the Giants, who are kind of middle of the pack, around 18 fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks this season. I love Jameis, and I know it's a little bit spicy and a little bit crazy, but I like him to have this opportunity and for the New Orleans Saints to have their homecoming moment with all their fans.
And anybody who remembers the Steve Gleason game against the Atlanta Falcons, like, that energy is a real thing.
Right.
And I remember before that game, we were doing Fantasy Live, and I'm like, I love the Saints this week. And he was like, no, the emotion plays no part of it. You're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a great call.
All right, I love it. Those are our Club Dub Players of the Week. The guys we guarantee are going to make it rain fantasy points and fake money, just like we do on the show. All right, before we go, guys, let's look at some fan questions. As a reminder, always tweet us at NFL Fantasy. Rank this one for you. Very quick. Amari Cooper barely performed in the last 2 weeks. So is it time to switch him out for Tyler Boyd?
I like Tyler Boyd a lot. We're not making that move. By the way, anytime you ever notice when you go to, like, a store and you do give somebody one of these big bills, like the clerk all of a sudden becomes an expert on counterfeit money.
All
like
right,
Leonardo DiCaprio and Catch Me If You Can.
This question from Fun Zone wants to know, Henry Ruggs or Cordarrelle Patterson this week?
I like both of these guys, but give me Patterson. He's just been seeing so much consistent targets out of that backfield there. They'll line him up wide at times, so give me Patterson of the two.
Love it. Rank this one coming back to you. Ashley wants to know, Dallas Goedert or Mike Gesicki for week 4? Some tight end questions.
Ashley, I have both these players as starts, excuse me. I'm going to go with Gesicki. Gesicki. Outside of Jalen Waddle, nobody has been more targeted by Jacoby Brissett than Mike Gesicki.
Love it. Gesicki, Ashley. All right, Florio, last one. Who should I start/sit at the tight end position between Kyle Pitts and Dalton Schultz?
Schultz is coming off of a big game, but they use 2 tight ends there, and we know that the top 2 receivers in Dallas are going to get all the targets. So I'm going to stick with Kyle Pitts for another week, show the Unicorn just a little bit more patience.
All right, I love it. Jeff, there you go. Now you got the question. Always tweet us at NFL Fantasy if you want to know. If you want even more fantasy analysis, then be sure to watch Adam Rank, Florio, Marcus Grant, and myself on Sunday mornings on NFL Fantasy Game Day. The fun starts at noon Eastern, and we are taking you all the way up to the moment of kickoff. We've got the latest actives and inactives, top starts, burning questions, sleepers, and more.
Oh my God.
Catch us streaming on the NFL app, the NFL Fantasy app, YouTube, or Facebook. It's a very good time.
I didn't think we were
Sunday.
coming back to camera.
We are. All right. Very quick question
Oh my gosh.
for the people. Any last-minute advice for Week 4, Florio?
There's so many big-name players just up in the air right now that I think you need to have a backup plan already in place in case you have one of these players that is like a game-time decision Sunday, because you just don't know.
Right.
There's always a plan B, like when Seth Rollins turned on the Shield.
That was a bad plan.
That was a good plan B for Triple H. Not so much, but yeah, I think that again, like it's still super early in your fantasy leagues. Even if you're 0-3, your season is not over. Like even the Lions, they're still in it. I mean, sort of, but no, your season's not over if you're 0-3. So don't be a poor sport, and just go out there and get that win this week, and you'll be fine.
I love it. We'll make sure that you continue and join us every single Thursday for the Stardom Cinema Show presented by Bridgestone Tires. Kimmi Checks, Adam Rank, Triple F Florio. Thanks for tagging along. We will see y'all later.
Yeah, they pull out the money. They're just like looking at you and looking at the bill. Like, okay.